I recently had the opportunity to have some demo time with a Lumagen video processor in my home theater. I've got a JVC projector, I've got a 163-inch scope screen with some very specific integration challenges in my room that I've talked about here on the channel. My time with the Lumagen and the content that I've made about it has fostered a whole bunch of questions and comments and live streams and other discussions that I've had. One of the main ones being like, do I need a video processor? And so I wanted to make this one to talk about, well, what are some reasons that you really don't need a video processor, and why maybe you don't need to go spending money in your system on something like a Lumagen or a madVR. So under the banner of pragmatic home theater advice, let's talk about this specifically. Right off of the bat, I would say, pragmatically speaking, that if you're not using a projector, don't buy a video processor. If you have a flat panel, even a sizable one, in my opinion, I don't really see a video processor adding a lot to your system for the relative cost. These things are expensive, several $1,000s at least in that ballpark for a Lumagen, and up to like a whopping, 15 grand or so now for the latest model of the more powerful madVR. How much have you really spent on your TV panel? Even an 83-inch top-of-the-line LG OLED or Sony OLED or whatever is probably $5,000-ish out of pocket. Are you really going to spend 3 times as much as you spent on your television on a video processor? I wouldn't think so. That money could probably go to other better things in your system. But the cost element aside, televisions have different levels of processors, computing power, and software than most projectors have, such that I would say the things that a video processor would be doing for you on a projector are not really necessary on a television, because the flat panel is probably doing all of that stuff to begin with. They are so much brighter than projectors that it's much easier to tone map and put quality HDR on the screen than with a projector. And they just don't have the integration challenges that projectors pose. If you have some really deliberate integration problem or logistic with a flat panel that a video processor may provide for you, then hey, more power to you. If you've got a limited setup where you can't do a projector, you have to do a flat panel, and you have the money burning the hole in your pocket, and you want all these whiz-bang processing features, say, that a madVR provides, then, whatever, enjoy it, more power to you. But from a need perspective, man, even if I had the money burning that hole in my pocket, I just don't think that I would ever add a video processor to a flat panel setup. The flat panel does everything it needs to do on its own nowadays, and it does it very, very well. So that all being said, another reason that for me I wouldn't consider a video processor per se is if I had a 16:9 screen even with a projector. Now in my system I use what's called a constant image height setup, where I've got a scope screen and my projector is changing modes and zooming the image up or down basically to fill the vertical height, but add width depending on the aspect ratio of the content. That's specifically a challenge and a manual element of using the projector. But if you have a 16:9 screen, you're probably not doing any of that. The setup of your projector is static, basically. You've got that projector set, it's zoomed and shifted and focused and all of that stuff to have essentially one image on the screen without any changes in lens memories and all of that, regardless of the aspect ratio of the content, because you're always filling the same width, and the content itself will determine how much of the vertical space of the screen is being used versus what may be black bars. So dealing with aspect ratio challenges and automatic shifting and all of that sort of stuff is a very, very powerful benefit of having a video processor in a setup, and you just don't have that problem the same way if you have a 16:9 screen. You're never going to have subtitles pushed off the bottom. It's just simpler, it's easier, and in my opinion, again, I wouldn't be buying or considering a video processor with the criteria of having a 16:9 screen. So let's get into the third step. Let's talk about HDR performance and let's talk about tone mapping. So I think one of the key benefits of a video processor is the fact that it brings in very high quality, very well developed external HDR tone mapping. And that goes for Lumagen and madVR alike. I strongly recommend, and I've said this in the history of videos on the channel, if you've got a projection setup in a home theater space and you're watching HDR content, 4K HDR content, you probably are, you really, really, really want tone mapping for the HDR images. Projectors are too dim, they don't fully give HDR its full justice, and they need some help. So where can you get tone mapping from? Well, you can buy a JVC projector, you can use something like a Panasonic Blu-ray player, or you buy the external processor. And there's pros and cons of each of those. The Panasonic really only works on discs played in the Panasonic, whereas if you do it from the JVC or the video processor, you get to benefit from it for all of your sources. So that all said, is the tone mapping of an Lumagen or a madVR going to be better than those others? I would think so. It's a purpose-driven device. It's built, coded, tested, verified, and the Lumagen and the madVR, right, live on their video processing features, and HDR tone mapping is a major part of that feature stack. Are they better enough that just for HDR tone mapping you need to go, or you may want to go spending several $1,000s or $umpteen-thousand on the video processor? Again, is the money burning a hole in your pocket? Do you have it? Will you not miss it? Then spend it, enjoy it, and have the best of the best. But if you've got that 16:9 screen and you've got a JVC projector, man, you might just be in the sweet spot. You may just be in the sweet spot already, where you can be completely happily pragmatic with what you have. And again, I think too, those Panasonic Blu-ray players do a pretty good job of tone mapping. I've seen it in a couple of shoot-offs and demos, but the main limitation there, it only works for discs played in that Panasonic player. So if you've got a streamer, an Apple TV, a Shield, or something else, or you've got a Kaleidescape, the Panasonic isn't going to complete the tone mapping equation for you. So all that said, if you don't have another like challenging projection integration video processing problem, then you may not need a video processor as well. One of the things that Chris Deering talked about as we did the live stream and we were setting up the Lumagen that I had is the capabilities of the Lumagen. There's a lot of things in the menus, a lot of complex options that you can tweak and manage. It's the culmination of many years essentially of solving integration problems in various rooms. Some of those challenges may now be defunct by virtue and advances in other advances in technology. But if you have a very key and specific integration problem or video logistical problem, you probably know it, and maybe a Lumagen or a madVR would be absolutely key and beneficial in solving that problem. But if you know you don't have any of those problems, then that one is kind of out the window as well. So for me, pretty soon here, or possibly this year, I'm not sure, if I decide to open up my wallet and go ahead and put a video processor in my room, I would be doing so based on the criteria of that processor automating and making so much better the aspect ratio management and integration of my space. I've been perfectly happy to date with the frame-by-frame dynamic tone mapping that the JVC projectors provide. I like other virtues of the JVC projectors, and for a future upgrade from my NX7, I would probably be defaulting to a JVC again anyway. If I could get better HDR processing and tone mapping results out of having a video processor, that would certainly be an extra plus for buying one. But for me, the main criteria again is solving those integration challenges and taking away the need to either manually manage lens shifting and modes or trying to automate it within my system in a way that it's not always going to get things right, and I'm probably going to have to intervene anyway. The rest of the family isn't going to know to push buttons on the system, whether it's 16:9 or 235:1. And so there's a lot of virtue and a lot of value in having the video processor do all of that automatically. So to wrap this up, I think I'll say in a lot of cases, people may be jonesing after some devices like these or maybe others in your system, but pragmatically speaking, you may be fine without them, depending on your needs and the specific logistics of what you're running. So sound off in the comments. Let me know what you think about this. And if you had a specific challenge in your space that a Lumagen or a madVR solved for you, share that story, share that info so that other folks can benefit from that knowledge. And if you'd like to learn more about my feelings on the Lumagen, how we had it all set up, there's the prior review video and the long live stream where we really broke it down completely with Chris Deering from Deep Dive AV. More to come on this topic, as probably someday I may have one of these running in my system before long. As always, if you'd like to support the channel, look down in the description below. Super thanks, channel memberships, and affiliate links to places like Amazon and audio advice where you could buy a madVR. Feel free to use my Techthusiasm referral code. Otherwise, please do all that regular YouTube stuff, like, subscribe, share the video, hit the bell. Thanks so much for watching. Come on back for more home theater discussion and fun.